When I stopped by the supermarket to buy my daughter's favorite roses to bring to her house for dinner by chance, I met my old neighbor. She grabbed my hand and said with a worried look, "Your son-in-law has been hiding something from you." When I looked bewildered, she told me a truth that shocked me to the bone. I was forced to make a decision to destroy all the lies in order to save my beloved daughter. Welcome, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Quick note, this is a fictional story with dramatized elements. Names and details are imaginary, but the message resonates deeply. So what did my neighbor tell me that day? Let's find out. I never thought a Sunday afternoon trip to the grocery store would change everything. The King Supers on Wadsworth Boulevard in Lakewood wasn't my usual spot. I'd only started coming here after Michelle moved to Highlands Ranch with Brandon 4 years ago. It was convenient right on the way to their house, so I'd stop by to grab something before visiting her. Wine for dinner flowers, maybe some of those chocolate-covered almonds she loved. It became a ritual of sorts. King Supers first, then Michelle's. That Sunday, I had one simple mission: red roses. She'd invited me to dinner, her first home-cooked meal in weeks, and roses were her favorite. They always had been, ever since she was a little girl, watching her mother arrange them in a vase on our kitchen table. I was inspecting a bouquet near the entrance when I heard a voice behind me. "Walter Green, is that really you?" I turned to find Linda Warren, my former neighbor of 15 years. She wore a King Supers apron, her silver hair pulled back neatly. We'd lost touch after she moved to live with her son and daughter-in-law almost 2 years ago. "Linda, I didn't know you worked here." "Started a few months ago," she said with a tired smile. "Part-time at the register. Keeps me busy." Then her expression shifted. She glanced around and lowered her voice. "Walter, do you have a minute? I need to talk to you about something. About Brandon." My grip tightened on the cart handle. "What about him?" She hesitated, then leaned closer. "Last Tuesday I saw him here. He was shopping with a woman." "A woman?" "Yes. Young, maybe 30. Long dark hair, very put together. She was wearing a designer coat and had this diamond bracelet on her wrist. Big stones, the kind that catches the light." I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a co-worker? "He works in real estate, meets a lot of people." Linda shook her head slowly. "Walter, they weren't just shopping together. They were together." Brandon had his arm around her waist. She was leaning into him, laughing. They were looking at each other the way married people do, the way you and Sarah used to. The words struck hard, but I kept my voice steady. "Are you sure it was Brandon?" "Walter, I was at his wedding. I've known that boy for years." Her voice was firm now. "When I saw them by the wine aisle, I walked over and called out to say hello. Brandon looked right at me. I know he recognized me. But before I could say anything more, he spoke. Cold as ice, he said, 'I don't know you, ma'am.' Then he took the woman's hand and walked away. I felt my chest tighten. He said he didn't know you." "Yes." Linda's eyes were sad. "Walter, we were neighbors for 15 years. I brought casseroles to your house after Sarah passed. I was at Brandon and Michelle's wedding. I gave them a set of wine glasses, for heaven's sake. He knows exactly who I am." "Maybe he didn't recognize you. It's been a couple years." "No." Linda cut me off gently. "He recognized me. I saw it in his eyes. He just didn't want that woman to know who I was. And the way they were together, Walter, they looked like husband and wife. Not friends, not colleagues. A couple." My throat felt tight. "Did you see what they bought?" She nodded. "I was at the register when they checked out. Expensive wine, gourmet cheese, fresh flowers, roses actually. The total was over $200. He paid with a credit card without blinking. $200 on groceries for a casual Tuesday. Michelle had mentioned money was tight lately. She'd been picking up extra shifts at the hospital, and Brandon said his commission checks were smaller. That's why she'd sent him $25,000 a few months ago, her savings, to help pay for his mother's medical care. Brandon had said his mother Edith was sick and needed treatment, but standing there with Linda's words echoing in my mind, something didn't add up. "Thank you for telling me, Linda." She squeezed my arm. "I hope I'm wrong, Walter, but I couldn't not tell you. If it were my daughter." "I understand." She gave me a sad smile and walked back toward the registers. I stood there for a long moment staring at the roses in my hand. They were beautiful, deep red, full petals, the kind Michelle would love. But now they felt heavier somehow, like they carried the weight of what I'd just learned. I paid at the self-checkout, barely registering the total. My mind was spinning. "I don't know you, ma'am." A lie. A deliberate, calculated lie to a woman who'd been at his wedding. The way Brandon had his arm around that woman. The diamond bracelet. The expensive shopping while claiming money was tight. The $25,000 Michelle had sent for his supposedly sick mother. I walked out into the parking lot, the November air sharp against my face. The sun was starting to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the asphalt. I could see my breath in small white puffs. I reached my truck and opened the door, carefully placing the roses on the passenger seat. For a moment, I just stood there, one hand on the doorframe, looking at those flowers. Maybe Linda was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. But deep down, I knew better. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. The heater kicked on, blowing cold air that would eventually warm up. I sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring through the windshield at nothing in particular. Then, I put the truck in reverse and pulled out of the parking space. The drive to Highlands Ranch would take 30 minutes. 30 minutes to decide what to do. 30 minutes to figure out how to look my son-in-law in the eye and not let him see the suspicion growing in my chest like a slow-burning fire. I merged onto the highway, the roses beside me, and Linda's words played over and over in my mind. They looked like husband and wife. He said he didn't know me. Over $200 without blinking. My daughter was waiting for me. She'd be so happy to see the roses. She'd smile that beautiful smile and put them in a vase and tell me dinner was almost ready. And Brandon would be there too, smiling, playing the part of the loving husband. But now I would be watching, really watching. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and kept driving, the bouquet of red roses sitting beside me, beautiful and silent, as the doubt in my heart grew with every passing mile. I pulled into Michelle and Brandon's driveway at 6:30 sharp, the roses still resting on the passenger seat. The house looked picture-perfect, white siding, black shutters, manicured lawn. But after my conversation with Linda, everything felt different. I grabbed the roses and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open. "Dad!" Michelle pulled me into a hug, her face lighting up. She'd traded her scrubs for jeans and a cozy sweater. "You brought roses. You didn't have to." "I wanted to," I said, handing them to her. She buried her face in the blooms and smiled. "They're beautiful. Come in, dinner's almost ready." I stepped inside, and that's when I started noticing things. The first was the purse on the entryway table, a Louis Vuitton, with the signature monogram pattern. I knew because Sarah had admired one years ago, and the price had made my head spin. $2,500. "That's new," I said. Michelle glanced over. "Oh yeah, Brandon surprised me last week. He said I deserved something nice." I forced a smile and followed her into the living room. My eyes went straight to the television mounted on the wall, 75 inches. So new I could still see the faint outline where someone had peeled off the price sticker. "New TV?" I asked. "Got it 2 weeks ago." Brandon's voice came from the kitchen doorway. He walked in with a dish towel over his shoulder, grinning. 75 inches, 4K, the whole deal. Figured we'd treat ourselves. He extended his hand, and I shook it, studying his face. He looked the same as always, clean-cut, confident, polished. But now I couldn't help searching for cracks in that exterior. "Business must be good," I said. "Better than good." Brandon motioned for me to sit. Dio just closed a $2.5 million listing last month. Biggest commission check I've ever seen. The company gave me a bonus on top of it, KPI reward for hitting my quarterly targets. That's impressive. Yeah, it's been a great year. He leaned back casually. That's when I noticed the watch on his wrist, sleek silver with a black face, the Tag Heuer logo glinting under the lights. $2,000 at least. "Nice watch," I said. Brandon glanced at it and smiled. "Oh, treated myself after that last sale. Figured I'd earned it." Michelle came back with the roses arranged in a crystal vase. She sat beside Brandon, leaning into him. He draped his arm over her shoulders. All I could think about was Linda's words. He had his arm around her waist. They looked like husband and wife. "So, how's work, sweetheart?" I asked Michelle. She sighed. "Exhausting. I picked up 2 extra shifts last week. 3 code blues in one night. I barely slept." "You're working too hard." "I know, but..." She glanced at Brandon. "We've had some expenses lately. I wanted to help out." "Help out," I echoed. Brandon jumped in. "Yeah, my mom's been having some health issues. We've been covering her medical bills." I straightened. "Edith, what's wrong?" His expression flickered discomfort, maybe irritation. "She's got heart problems. Needs medication monitoring. It's been expensive." "How expensive?" Michelle answered. "I sent Brandon $25,000 a few months ago. From my savings. To cover her treatment and make sure she was comfortable. $25,000. The number hit me hard. That was Michelle's nest egg, years of savings scraped together from extra shifts and careful budgeting. Money she'd dreamed of using for a bigger house or a trip to Europe. And now it was gone. "That was generous of you," I said, carefully looking at Brandon. "How's your mother doing now?" "She's managing," he said, his tone clipped. "It's been tough, but we're doing what we can." "Where is she staying?" "Pinewood Care Center in Aurora. It's not fancy, but it's close enough that I can check on her." "You visit her often?" Brandon shifted. "When I can. Work's been crazy, you know how it is." I nodded slowly, but my mind was racing. $25,000 for medical bills. A Louis Vuitton purse. A 75-inch TV. A $2,000 watch. If money was so tight, where was all this luxury coming from? "Dinner's ready," Michelle announced, standing. "I made your favorite dad pot roast with roasted vegetables." I followed them into the dining room. The table was set beautifully, cloth napkins, matching plates, candles flickering. Michelle had gone to a lot of trouble trying so hard to make everything perfect. As I sat down across from Brandon, watching him pour wine into expensive glasses and smile that easy, practiced smile, all I could think about was Linda's voice. "I don't know you, ma'am." A lie. A bold-faced lie to a woman who'd been at his wedding, and now sitting here surrounded by expensive things, listening to him talk about his sick mother while my daughter worked herself to exhaustion to pay for care that might not even be real. Something cold settled in my chest. I picked up my fork and took a bite of pot roast, forcing myself to chew, to swallow, to smile at Michelle when she asked if I liked it. "It's perfect, sweetheart," I said. Brandon raised his glass. "To family," he said. I lifted mine and clinked it against his, meeting his eyes across the table. And in that moment, looking at him, at his confident smile, his expensive watch, his carefully crafted image, I felt like I was sitting across from a complete stranger. A stranger who was lying to my daughter. A stranger I no longer recognized at all. Dinner ended around 8:30. Michelle started clearing the plates, and I stood to help, but Brandon waved me off. "Let me get those, Dad," he said with that practiced smile. "You relax." He carried a stack of dishes into the kitchen, and I heard his phone buzz on the counter. A moment later, he reappeared, phone in hand, his expression apologetic. "I'm so sorry," he said to Michelle. "That was the office. I have to run out for a bit, client emergency. One of my listings just got a surprise inspection issue, and I need to meet the buyer's agent to smooth things over." Michelle's face fell. "Now Dad just got here." "I know, honey, I'm sorry. It'll only take an hour, maybe less." He kissed her forehead, grabbed his keys from the hook by the door, and looked at me. "Walter, great seeing you. We'll do this again soon, yeah." Before I could respond, he was out the door. The house fell quiet except for the soft clink of dishes as Michelle loaded the dishwasher. I stood in the living room, staring at the empty spot where Brandon had been sitting, my mind churning. An hour ago, I might have believed that story. But after what Linda told me, after seeing all those expensive things, after watching Brandon talk about his sick mother while wearing a $2,000 watch, I didn't believe a word of it. Michelle came back into the living room, wiping her hands on a towel. "Sorry about that, Dad. Brandon's job can be so unpredictable sometimes." "It's fine," I said. Then, before I could stop myself, I added, "Michelle, I need to talk to you about something." She sat down on the couch, tucking her legs underneath her. "What's up?" I took a breath. Today, when I was at King Soopers, I ran into Linda Warren. You remember her, our old neighbor? "Oh yeah. How's she doing?" "She's fine. She works there now." I paused, choosing my words carefully. "She told me something that's been bothering me. She said she saw Brandon last week at the store. With a woman." Michelle blinked. "A woman?" "A young woman. Linda said they looked close. Like they were together." For a moment, Michelle just stared at me. Then she let out a short laugh. "Dad, are you serious right now?" "I'm just telling you what she said. Linda saw Brandon with a woman and she just assumed that he's cheating on me." Michelle's voice was rising. "Did it occur to you or to her that maybe it was a co-worker? Brandon works with women all the time." "Linda said her name was Amber. Does that sound familiar?" Michelle hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Amber's a colleague at Coldwell Banker. Brandon's mentioned her before. She's been helping him with some of his bigger listings. Linda said they looked like more than colleagues." "Dad." Michelle stood up, her arms crossed. "What are you trying to say?" "I'm saying Linda knows Brandon. She was at your wedding. She wouldn't make something like this up. So you believe some random story from a woman you haven't talked to in 2 years over your own son-in-law?" Her voice was sharp, now defensive. "Over me? Michelle, I'm not trying to upset you. I just think." "You just think what, Dad?" She cut me off, her eyes flashing. "That Brandon's lying to me, that he's sneaking around. You've never liked him, have you?" "That's not true." "Yes, it is." Her voice cracked. "From the day I brought him home, you've been looking for reasons not to trust him. You never thought he was good enough, and now you're using some gossip from a grocery store to try to tear us apart." "Michelle, listen to me." "No." She shouted, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. "You listen to me. Brandon is my husband. He works hard to provide for us. He takes care of me. And yes, maybe he bought me a nice purse, maybe we got a new TV, so what? He earned that money. He deserves to enjoy it." "What about the $25,000 you gave him?" She froze. "What about it? Where did it go, Michelle?" Because if his mother is so sick, if the medical bills are so high, why does he have money for luxury watches and expensive dinners? Her face went pale, then flushed red. How dare you? His mother is dying, and you're standing here accusing him of what, stealing from me. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just asking questions. Well, stop asking. She stepped toward me, her hands clenched into fists. You don't get to come into my house and interrogate me about my marriage. You don't get to make me doubt my husband because some old neighbor thinks she saw something. Michelle, get out. The words hit me like a slap. What? I said get out. Her voice was cold, now trembling with anger. I don't want you here. I don't want to hear another word about Brandon or Amber or Linda or any of this. Sweetheart, please. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me. She laughed bitterly. From what? From the man I love. From the life I've built, no dad. You're not protecting me. You're trying to destroy my marriage because you've never trusted him. Because you've never believed I could make my own decisions. That's not true. Yes, it is. Tears were streaming down her face now. You've been doing this my whole life. Ever since Mom died, you've been treating me like I'm still a little girl who needs you to save her. But I'm not. I'm 35 years old. I have a career, a husband, a life. And I don't need you coming in here and tearing it apart. I felt my own eyes sting. Michelle, I love you. I'm your father. I know what you want. Her voice broke. You want me to need you. But I don't. Not like this. So please just leave. I stood there frozen, searching her face for any sign that she didn't mean it. But all I saw was anger and hurt and something else, something that looked like fear. Fear that I might be right. Then if you walk out that door, she said quietly, don't call me, don't text me, just give me space. From now on, you're not my father. Not until you can respect my choices. The words shattered something inside me. I looked at the coffee table where the roses I'd brought still sat in their crystal vase. Beautiful and red and already starting to wilt at the edges. Then I looked at my daughter, my strong, brilliant, heartbroken daughter, and I knew there was nothing I could say that would change her mind tonight. So I nodded, once turned, and walked to the door. I stepped out into the cold November night, and the door slammed shut behind me. I stood there on the porch, my breath fogging in the air, my chest tight with a pain I hadn't felt since Sarah died. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. Determination. If Michelle wouldn't listen, I'd have to find proof. Real, undeniable proof that Brandon was lying to her. And I wasn't going to stop until I had it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Michelle's words over and over. Don't call me. Don't text me. You're not my father. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, angry, hurt, certain that I was wrong. But I knew I wasn't. By the time the sun came up Monday morning, I'd made my decision. If Michelle wouldn't listen to me, I'd have to find proof she couldn't ignore. Hard evidence that Brandon was lying to her. And I couldn't do that alone. I needed a professional. At 9 o'clock sharp, I was sitting in my truck outside a small office building on Spear Boulevard in downtown Denver. The sign on the second-floor window read, Marcus Reeves, Private Investigations. I'd found him online the night before, scrolling through reviews at 3 in the morning. Former police detective, 15 years of experience, specializes in infidelity and financial fraud. The reviews were solid. People said he was discreet, thorough, and honest. That was enough for me. I climbed the stairs and knocked on the frosted glass door. A voice called out, "Come in." The office was small but tidy. A desk sat near the window covered with file folders and a laptop. 2 chairs faced the desk, and the walls were lined with filing cabinets. No fancy decorations, no pretense. Just a workspace that looked like it got used every day. Behind the desk sat Marcus Reeves. He was maybe 45, with short dark hair starting to gray at the temples, broad shoulders, and the kind of weathered face that came from years of watching people at their worst. He stood and extended his hand. "Walter Green." "That's me." I shook his hand. His grip was firm. "Have a seat." He gestured to one of the chairs and sat back down. "You said on the phone this is about your son-in-law." "Yeah." I cleared my throat. "I think he's cheating on my daughter, and I think he's lying about other things too." Marcus pulled out a notepad and pen. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about Linda seeing Brandon with the young woman at King Soopers, about the expensive purse, the TV, the watch, about the $25,000 Michelle had sent for his supposedly sick mother, about the confrontation at dinner, and how Michelle had thrown me out. Marcus listened without interrupting, taking notes in quick, efficient strokes. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me. "How long have they been married?" 4 years. "And you've never suspected anything before now?" "No. Brandon always seemed fine. A little smooth maybe, but I figured that was just his job. Real estate guys are like that." Marcus nodded. "They are. Okay, here's what I'm hearing. Possible infidelity, possible financial fraud, and a wife who doesn't want to believe it. That's common. People don't want to see what's right in front of them, especially when it's going to hurt. So you'll help me." "I can." He leaned back in his chair. "But I need to be clear about what you're asking for. Surveillance isn't cheap and it takes time. If I'm going to follow Brandon, document his movements, find out who this woman is and what's going on with the money, that's a full work week minimum, maybe more." "How much?" $2,500 for the first week. That includes surveillance, background checks, financial analysis, if I can get access, and a full report with photos and video if I find anything. If we need to go longer, it's another $1,500 per week after that. $2,500. That was more than I'd spent on anything in years outside of house repairs and my truck. But when I thought about Michelle, about the way she'd looked at me last night, so convinced I was wrong, I knew I'd pay 10 times that if it meant protecting her. "Done," I said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You don't want to think about it?" "No. I want you to start today." He nodded slowly, then pulled out a contract and slid it across the desk. "I'll need some information. Brandon's full name, date of birth if you know it. His car make and model, license plate if you have it. Home address, work address. Any known associates. The woman's name if you have it." I gave him everything I knew. Brandon Coleman, 37 years old. Silver Audi Q5 license plate I'd memorized from seeing it in Michelle's driveway 100 times. Their address in Highlands Ranch. Coldwell Banker's office address downtown. And the name Amber, no last name. But Michelle had said she worked at the same real estate office. Marcus wrote it all down. "This Amber, do you know anything else about her? Just that she's young, maybe 30. Dark hair. Linda said she was wearing a diamond bracelet and a designer coat." "That's helpful. I'll start with the office, see if I can identify her." He looked up at me. "One more thing, Walter. If I find something, and I mean when, because in cases like this, there's usually something to find, it's going to hurt. You're going to see things you don't want to see. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Michelle's face, her trust in Brandon, her belief that I was the one tearing her life apart. "I'm prepared," I said. Marcus nodded and stood, extending his hand again. "Then we have a deal. I'll start surveillance this afternoon. I'll send you daily updates, text, or email, whichever you prefer. Photos, locations, notes. If I find anything significant, I'll call you right away. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, he said. Let's see what we find first. I left the office and walked back to my truck. The November sky was gray and heavy, threatening rain. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, staring at the contract Marcus had given me, proof that I'd just hired a private investigator to follow my son-in-law. A week ago, I would have laughed at the idea, but now it felt like the only option I had left. I started the engine and drove home, my phone on the seat beside me, waiting for Marcus's first report. Waiting for the truth. The report started coming in Monday afternoon. I was sitting at my kitchen table nursing a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Marcus. First update attached. Call if you have questions. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. The first photo showed Brandon's silver Audi parked in the lot at Cherry Creek Shopping Center. The timestamp read 12:47 p.m., barely 3 hours after I'd left Marcus's office. The second photo made my stomach drop. Brandon stood beside his car, his arm wrapped around a young woman's waist. She was laughing, her head tilted back, long, dark hair catching the sunlight. He was looking down at her with an expression I'd seen him give Michelle 1,000 times: affectionate, intimate, familiar. The third photo showed them kissing. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, then set the phone down and pressed my palms against the table to stop my hands from shaking. There it was. Proof. Undeniable photographic proof that Linda had been right. I called Marcus. "Did you get the photos?" he asked. "Yeah." My voice sounded hollow. "That's her. That's the woman Linda saw. Her name's Amber Wright. 30 years old, works at Coldwell Banker, same office as Brandon. I talked to a couple people who know her. Sounds like they've been seeing each other for over a year. A year. Michelle and Brandon had been married for 4 years, and he'd been cheating on her for at least one of them. "I'll keep following him," Marcus said. "If there's more, I'll find it." "Thank you," I managed. He hung up, and I sat there alone in my kitchen, staring at the photos on my phone, feeling like the floor had opened up beneath me. Tuesday's report came at 2 in the afternoon. This time, it was a video. Marcus had followed Brandon and Amber to Capitol Grill, an upscale steakhouse downtown. The footage showed them sitting at a corner table, candlelight flickering between them. Amber reached across the table and took Brandon's hand. He lifted it to his lips and kissed her knuckles. The video was only 15 seconds long, but it felt like hours. Marcus's text read, "Dinner tab was $287. He paid with the same Visa ending in 4829. Credit card's in his name, but records show it's linked to a joint account with your daughter. Michelle's money. He was spending Michelle's money on another woman." I didn't call Marcus this time. I just sat on my couch and watched the video again and again until I couldn't stand it anymore. Wednesday brought photos from Trice Jewelers, a high-end jewelry store in Centennial. Amber stood at the counter trying on a diamond necklace. The stones caught the light glittering against her neck as she turned to show Brandon. He smiled and nodded, and the salesperson carefully placed the necklace back in its case. Marcus's text, "Pendant necklace, 1.5 carats, total weight. Price tag $3,847. He didn't buy it that day, but the salesperson said he came back the next morning and purchased it. Paid in full. Same Visa card. $3,847 for a woman who wasn't his wife. I felt sick. Thursday's update came with more video. Brandon and Amber walking out of Trice Jewelers. Brandon carried a small silver bag with the store's logo on it. As they reached his car, he stopped, pulled the necklace out and fastened it around Amber's neck. She threw her arms around him and kissed him right there in the parking lot. Marcus's text, total, confirmed spending so far jewelry $3,847. Restaurants, 3 dinners, $780. Shopping 2 trips to Cherry Creek, estimated $1,200. That's just what I've documented this week. Financial analysis shows similar patterns going back 8 weeks. Rough estimate he spent at least $11,000 on her in 2 months. $11,000. And that was just what Marcus could track. I sat at my kitchen table again, staring at the numbers, doing math I didn't want to do. Michelle had given Brandon $25,000 for his mother's medical care. If he'd spent $11,000 on Amber, where was the rest? I texted Marcus. What about his mother? Can you find out where she is? His response came 10 minutes later, already on it. I'll have an address by tomorrow. Friday morning, my phone rang. I found her, Marcus said. Edith Marshall, 77 years old. She's at a place called Pinewood Care Center in Aurora. It's a basic assisted living facility, not exactly expensive. I talked to the front desk, said I was a family friend. They told me she's been there for 6 months, pays rent with her Social Security checks. No extra funds, no medical treatments, beyond standard care. My blood went cold. No extra funds, none. Whatever money your daughter sent Brandon, it didn't go to his mother. I closed my eyes and leaned against the counter. Jesus. Walter. Marcus's voice was serious. I've been doing this a long time. This isn't just infidelity. This is financial fraud. He took $25,000 from your daughter under false pretenses and spent it on himself and his girlfriend. That's a crime. I know. What do you want to do? I opened my eyes and looked at the photos spread across my kitchen table, Brandon and Amber kissing, holding hands, laughing. The receipt from Trice Jewelers, the video of him fastening a diamond necklace around her neck, while Michelle worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital to make ends meet. I want everything, I said. Every photo, every receipt, every detail you can find. I'm going to show Michelle the truth, and she's going to have to face it. I'll send you the full report this afternoon, Marcus said. But Walter, there's one more thing you should do. What? Go see his mother. Talk to her yourself. If Michelle won't believe the photos, maybe she'll believe Edith. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I will. Good luck, Marcus said, and hung up. I stood in my kitchen staring at my phone at the evidence of my son-in-law's betrayal, stacked up in texts and photos and cold, hard numbers. $25,000. Gone. And Michelle had no idea. At 1 o'clock, my phone buzzed one last time. Another text from Marcus' final report sent to your email. Pinewood Care Center address 2847 Peoria Street, Aurora, Colorado. Visiting hours 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Her room number is 14. I stared at the address for a long moment. Then I grabbed my keys. It was time to meet Edith Marshall. Saturday morning, I drove to Aurora. Pinewood Care Center sat on a quiet street lined with bare trees, a low brick building that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. The parking lot was half empty, the asphalt cracked. A faded sign near the entrance read, Visiting hours 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. I parked and sat for a moment staring at the building. This was where Brandon's mother lived. The woman Michelle had given $25,000 to help. I grabbed the small bag of groceries I'd brought, oranges, crackers, chocolate, and walked inside. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. A tired-looking receptionist barely glanced up as I approached. I'm here to see Edith Marshall, I said. Room 14. She nodded toward a hallway. Down there, second door on the left. I walked down the narrow corridor, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I found room 14 and knocked gently. "Come in," a thin voice called. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet, a single bed with a faded floral blanket, a wooden dresser with a few framed photos, a small television on a rolling cart. The window overlooked the parking lot, half covered by drawn blinds. Sitting in a worn armchair by the window was Edith Marshall. She was tiny, maybe 5 feet tall, barely 100 pounds. Her white hair was thin and pulled back in a bun, and she wore an oversized cardigan over a simple house dress. Her hands, resting on the chair arms, were gnarled with arthritis. "Mrs. Marshall," I said softly. She looked up, her pale blue eyes wary. "Yes. My name is Walter Green. I'm Michelle's father, Brandon's father-in-law." Her expression shifted, surprise, then relief. "Michelle's father. Oh my goodness. Please sit down." She gestured to the bed. I set the groceries on the dresser and sat. "I brought you a few things." "That's very kind." Her voice trembled. "I don't get many visitors. Brandon doesn't come by." Her face fell. "No, he calls sometimes, maybe once a month. But he hasn't been here in 6 months. Maybe longer." 6 months. "What about Michelle? Does she visit?" Edith shook her head sadly. "No, but she calls. Or she tries to. She's such a sweet girl, always asking how I'm doing. But Brandon told me not to answer when she calls." I stared at her. "He told you not to answer?" "Yes. He said it would upset her to know how I'm really doing, that it's better if I don't talk to her." So I stopped picking up. Brandon hadn't just lied to Michelle. He'd actively blocked her from his mother. "Mrs. Marshall," I said carefully, "Michelle sent Brandon $25,000. She thought it was for your medical care. Treatments, medications, making sure you were comfortable." Edith's eyes went wide. $25,000. "Yes." She shook her head slowly. "I haven't seen a penny of that money. I pay my rent here with Social Security, $1,200 a month. That's all I have. The staff are kind, but this place isn't expensive, and I'm not getting any special treatments, just regular medications for blood pressure and arthritis." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "He told Michelle you were very sick, that you needed the money." "I'm not sick," Edith said, her voice breaking. "I'm just old and lonely." We sat in silence. I looked around the room, the thin blanket, the ancient television, the drafty window. Cold air seeped in despite the cardigan wrapped around her. "Mrs. Marshall, do you have a winter coat?" She blinked. "I have an old one, but it's worn out. The zipper's broken." "Brandon promised to buy you a new one, didn't he?" Her eyes filled with tears. "How did you know?" "Just a guess. He said he'd get me a navy blue one, a warm one, but he never did." She wiped her eyes. "I don't mean to complain. He's my son. I'm sure he's busy. Too busy to visit his mother. Too busy to buy her a coat, but not too busy to spend $11,000 on his girlfriend." I stood up. "Mrs. Marshall, I'm going to buy you that coat. Navy blue, just like he promised. And I'm going to bring Michelle here to see you. Soon." Edith looked up at me, her eyes wide with hope. "You will, I promise." She reached out and took my hand, her grip weak but warm. "Thank you, Walter. You're a good man. Michelle is lucky to have you." I squeezed her hand gently and left. I sat in my truck, staring at the building. The image of Edith's cold, lonely room burned into my mind. $25,000. Michelle had given Brandon $25,000. Marcus had tracked $11,000 spent on Amber jewelry dinners shopping. That left $14,000. $14,000 that wasn't going to Edith's care. Wasn't going to medical bills or a better facility or the warm coat Brandon had promised her. Where had it gone? I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. I just met his mother, I said, and she's living in a bare room with broken heating, paying rent with Social Security. She hasn't seen a dime of that $25,000. Brandon's been lying about everything. Marcus was quiet for a moment. So, what's your next move? I looked back at the building at the window where Edith's room was. I thought about Michelle working herself to exhaustion, trusting the man she loved. I thought about Brandon kissing Amber in parking lots, fastening diamond necklaces around her neck, spending money that wasn't his, while his own mother sat alone in a cold room waiting for a coat he'd never buy. I'm going to find out where the rest of that money went, I said, and then I'm going to show Michelle everything. Every photo, every receipt, every lie. Good, Marcus said. I'll keep digging. I hung up and started the engine. $14,000. Brandon had stolen from Michelle, abandoned his mother, lied to everyone, and I was going to make sure he paid for it. I was still sitting in my truck outside Pinewood Care Center when my phone buzzed at 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. An email from Marcus. The subject line read, "Urgent, found something big." I opened it. Walter, I dug into Brandon's credit card records from the past 2 months. November 3rd to 7th, he told Michelle he was going to San Diego for a real estate conference. That was a lie. I traced his hotel booking to the St. Regis Aspen Resort in Colorado. 4 nights, $1,350 total, paid with his visa ending in 4829. Amber Wright posted photos from Aspen on social media. During those exact dates, she deleted them after 24 hours. But I got screenshots before they disappeared. I'm attaching everything. Call me. My hands shook as I scrolled through the attachments. The first was a screenshot from Amber's social media. The photo showed her standing on a snow-covered balcony mountains in the background, wearing a fur-trimmed coat and holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, "Living my best life." The location tag, St. Regis Aspen Resort. The date, November 4th, 2024. The second attachment was a hotel receipt. St. Regis Aspen Resort. Guest name, Brandon Coleman. Check-in, November 3rd, check-out, November 7th. Room rate, $337.50 per night. Total, $1,350. Payment method, Visa ending in 4829. The same card he'd used to buy Amber's necklace. The same card linked to the joint account he shared with Michelle. I kept scrolling. Marcus had included a breakdown of estimated expenses, hotel, $1,350 meals, approximately $400 ski lift passes, $200 miscellaneous, $100. Total estimated cost, $2,050. Add that to the $3,847 necklace from Trice Jewelers, the $780 in restaurant bills, the $1,200 in shopping trips Marcus had already documented. Brandon had spent over $7,000 on Amber in a single month, while Michelle worked 12-hour shifts and sent him $25,000 to care for his supposedly dying mother. I called Marcus. "Did you get it?" he asked. "Yeah." My voice was hoarse. "San Diego." He told her San Diego. I checked. There was no real estate conference in San Diego those dates. He made it up. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back against the seat. "How did you get the social media photos if she deleted them?" "I have software that archives posts before they disappear. It's standard for investigations like this." The posts were public for about 18 hours before she took them down, probably realized it was stupid to broadcast a secret trip. But by then, I'd already captured them. "Is there more?" "One more thing," Marcus said. "I found another photo she posted from a restaurant in Aspen, high-end steakhouse called Matsuhisa. I called them, said I was trying to track down a receipt for tax purposes. They confirmed a reservation under Brandon Coleman for 2 people on November 5th at 7 p.m. Bill was $340. $340 for one dinner. Walter, I know this is hard to hear, but you need to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't just an affair. Brandon is living a double life. He's taking your daughter's money and using it to fund a relationship with another woman. Fancy trips, expensive dinners, jewelry. Meanwhile, his mother is sitting in a care facility with a broken coat zipper. I know. What are you going to do?" I opened my eyes and stared through the windshield at Pinewood Care Center. I need to talk to Michelle, not to accuse her or upset her, just to confirm the timeline. If she tells me Brandon went to San Diego those dates, then I know for sure he's been lying to her face. Just be careful, Marcus said. If she's still in denial, she might warn him you're investigating. I'll be careful. I hung up and sat there for a long moment, phone in my hand, trying to decide how to approach this. Finally, I dialed Michelle's number. She answered on the 3rd ring. Dad. Her voice was guarded cold. We hadn't spoken since she'd thrown me out Sunday night. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, keeping my tone light. "I know you asked for space, and I'm respecting that. I just wanted to check in. How are you?" Silence, then, "I'm fine." "Good. That's good." I paused. I was thinking about Brandon's work. He mentioned he travels a lot for showings and conferences. Does he go out of town often? Sometimes. Why? No reason. Just curious. Has he had any trips recently? Another pause. He went to San Diego a couple weeks ago. A real estate conference. He was gone 4 days. My chest tightened. Early November. Yeah, November 3rd through the 7th. Why are you asking? Just making conversation. I forced myself to sound casual. How was it? Did he enjoy the conference? I think so. He said it was exhausting, lots of networking, late meetings. He came home pretty tired. Tired. Because he'd been skiing in Aspen with his girlfriend, not attending a conference in San Diego. That sounds tough, I said. Well, I'm glad he's working hard. Dad, why are you really calling? I just miss you, Michelle. I hate how we left things. Her voice softened slightly. I miss you too. But I meant what I said. I need you to trust me and my marriage. I know. I'm trying. We talked for a few more minutes, small talk, careful and strained, and then she said she had to go. I told her I loved her. She hesitated, then said it back. When I hung up, I stared at Marcus's email on my phone. Michelle had just confirmed it. Brandon told her he went to San Diego for a conference from November 3rd to 7th. But he hadn't. He'd gone to Aspen with Amber and spent over $2,000 of Michelle's money doing it. I sat there in the parking lot of Pinewood Care Center looking at the photos on my screen. Amber on the balcony with champagne. Brandon's name on the hotel receipt. The restaurant bill. The ski passes. My daughter was working herself to exhaustion, trusting her husband completely. And he was lying to her face. Over and over again. I realized then, with painful clarity, that Michelle wouldn't believe me if I just told her. She'd already chosen Brandon's word over mine once. She'd thrown me out of her house for even suggesting he was unfaithful. But she couldn't argue with proof. Hard evidence. Photos, receipts. A paper trail she couldn't deny. I needed more than what I had. I needed everything. Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I walked into the Coldwell Banker office on Grant Street in downtown Denver. The building was modern, all glass and polished steel, with the company logo gleaming above the entrance. I'd driven past it 100 times, but never been inside. Now, standing in the marble lobby, I felt like I was stepping into enemy territory. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor and pushed through the glass doors into the real estate office. The space was open and bright, with rows of desks separated by low partitions. Framed photos of expensive homes lined the walls. A handful of agents sat at their computers talking on phones or typing away. At the front desk sat a young woman with blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Her name tag read, Jessica. I approached with what I hoped was a friendly smile. Good afternoon. I'm looking for Brandon Coleman. Is he available? Jessica looked up and smiled back. Oh, Brandon. He's out to lunch right now. He should be back in about 30 minutes. Are you here for a showing? Actually, I was hoping to discuss listing my house. A friend recommended Brandon. That's great. He's one of our top agents. She glanced at her computer screen. Let me check his schedule. Can I get your name, Walter Green? As she typed, she said casually, Brandon just left about 20 minutes ago. He went to lunch with Amber, his girlfriend. They usually go to that Italian place down the street on Mondays. I froze. His girlfriend. I kept my voice steady. Yeah, Amber, right. She works here too. She's one of our newer agents. They've been together for like over a year now. Super cute couple. Jessica smiled, oblivious to the bomb she'd just dropped. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to stay calm. I didn't know Brandon had a girlfriend. That's nice. Oh yeah, they're pretty serious. She's really sweet. Let me see if I can get you on his calendar for later this week. Excuse me. A man's voice interrupted. I turned to see a guy in his 40s walking over wearing a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He extended his hand. I'm Tom Mitchell, one of the senior agents here. I couldn't help overhearing. You're looking to list a property. I shook his hand. Walter Green. Yes, potentially. Great. Brandon's excellent, but if you'd like, I can help you while you wait. Want to grab a coffee in the break room? Sure. I followed Tom to a small break room in the back, a kitchenette with a coffee maker, a table, and a few chairs. He poured 2 cups and handed me one. So, Tom said, sitting down. You're a friend of Brandon's. Actually, I'm his father-in-law. Tom blinked. Father-in-law? Yeah, he's married to my daughter Michelle. Tom's face went completely blank. He stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. Married. Yes, 4 years now. Tom set his coffee down slowly. I'm sorry, are we talking about the same Brandon Coleman, tall guy, dark hair, drives a silver Audi? That's him. Brandon's married? Tom's voice rose slightly. Are you sure? Positive. I was at the wedding. Tom leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face. Jesus Christ, I've worked with Brandon for 3 years. I've never heard him mention a wife. Not once. My chest tightened. Never. He talks about Amber all the time, where they went for dinner trips, they're planning gifts he's buying her. The whole office knows they're together. But a wife? Tom shook his head. He's never said a word. What about social events, office parties? Does he bring anyone? He brings Amber, every time. Last year's Christmas party, the summer picnic, happy hours. It's always Amber. Tom looked genuinely disturbed now. Walter, I'm being straight with you. Everyone here thinks Brandon's single. Well, not single anymore because of Amber, but definitely not married. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. So he's been pretending Michelle doesn't exist. I guess so. I mean, damn, I had no idea. Tom paused. Does your daughter know about Amber? She knows Amber's name. Brandon told her Amber's a colleague. Nothing more. Tom let out a long breath. Man, that's messed up. I'm really sorry. I wouldn't have said anything if I'd known. No. I cut him off. I'm glad you did. I needed to hear it. We sat in silence for a moment. From the main office, I could hear phones ringing, people talking, the hum of daily business. Normal sounds. But nothing about this felt normal. How long did you say they've been together? I asked. Brandon and Amber. Over a year at least. Maybe longer. They started getting close around last summer, I think. July or August. By fall, it was pretty obvious they were a couple. Over a year. My mind raced doing the math. Michelle and Brandon had their third wedding anniversary last June, which meant he'd started seeing Amber barely a month later. Does Amber know he's married? I asked. Tom shrugged. I have no idea. If she does, she's never mentioned it either. I stood up my coffee untouched. Thank you for your honesty, Tom. Yeah, of course. He stood too, looking uncomfortable. Listen, are you going to talk to Brandon about this? Eventually. Do me a favor, don't tell him I said anything. I don't need the drama at work. I won't. Tom walked me back to the lobby. Jessica looked up as we passed, still cheerful and oblivious. Did you want to schedule something with Brandon, Mr. Green? Not today, I said. I'll call him. I walked out of the office and down to the parking garage, my footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. When I reached my truck, I sat behind the wheel and gripped it hard, trying to steady my breathing. Brandon had erased Michelle from his life. At work, he was single. Dating Amber, taking her to office parties, introducing her to colleagues, building a whole separate world where his wife didn't exist. And everyone believed him. Jessica thought Amber was his girlfriend. Tom had worked with him for 3 years and never heard Michelle's name. The entire office saw him as one half of a happy couple, just not the couple he'd actually married. My daughter had been deleted. I started the engine and pulled out of the garage onto Grant Street, heading home. But I wasn't going home to rest. I was going home to call Marcus, because now I had everything I needed. Tuesday morning, I drove back to Marcus's office. When I walked in, he was already waiting, a thick manila folder sitting on his desk. He gestured to the chair across from him. This is everything, he said, tapping the folder. Every photo, every receipt, every detail I could find. It's all here. I sat down and he slid the folder across the desk. I opened it. The first page was a timeline, dates, locations, events, all laid out in neat columns. November 3 to 7, Aspen trip with Amber Wright. November 10, jewelry purchase at Trice Jewelers, $3,847. November 12th, dinner at Capitol Grill, $287. On and on, a chronicle of betrayal spelled out in black and white. Behind the timeline were the photos, more than 50 of them. Brandon and Amber at Cherry Creek Shopping Center holding hands in the parking lot. Brandon fastening the diamond necklace around her neck. The two of them at a candlelit table at Capitol Grill, Amber on the balcony and Aspen champagne in hand. Then came the receipts. Hotel bills, restaurant tabs, credit card statements showing charges to the Visa ending in 4829, the joint account Brandon shared with Michelle. I dug deeper into Amber Wright, Marcus said. 30 years old. She and Brandon dated about 6 years ago before he met your daughter. They broke up. He moved on, married Michelle. Then, a year and a half ago, Amber got hired at Coldwell Banker. They reconnected and started the affair. Yeah, from what I can tell, Amber thinks Brandon's getting divorced. She's been posting on social media about new beginnings and fresh starts. I don't think she knows he's still living with his wife. I closed my eyes for a moment. Even Amber was being lied to. How much has he spent on her? I asked. Marcus pulled out a spreadsheet. Why, based on what I can document, Trice Jewelers necklace, $3,847. Aspen trip, approximately $2,050. 3 dinners at high-end restaurants, $780. Shopping trips at Cherry Creek, estimated $1,200. Flowers, wine gifts, another $600 or so. Total confirmed spending just over $11,000. In 2 months. In 2 months, Marcus confirmed. And that's just what I could track. There's probably more. I stared at the numbers. $11,000 of Michelle's money spent on another woman, and that left $14,000 from the original $25,000, still unaccounted for. What about the rest of the money? I asked. Marcus shook his head. I can't trace it. It's possible he moved it to a separate account I don't have access to, or spent it on things that don't leave a paper trail. Cash withdrawals, maybe. Or he's saving it. Either way, it didn't go to his mother. I thought about Edith sitting in that cold room with her broken coat zipper, living on $1,200 a month in Social Security, while her son stole from his wife. Walter. Marcus said, his voice serious. I need to warn you. When you confront Brandon with this, he's going to know he's been caught. And cornered people do unpredictable things. He might get angry. He might threaten you or Michelle or both. Be prepared. I will. Do you have a plan? Yeah. I looked down at the folder. I'm going to organize all of this, put it into categories so Michelle can see exactly what he's done. Then I'm going to call her and ask her to come over. I won't tell her what it's about, I'll just say I want to talk. Marcus nodded. She might not come. She was pretty clear about needing space. I know. That's why I'm going to use something she can't refuse. What's that? I hesitated, then said, my wife Sarah had a pearl necklace. It was her mother's, passed down through the family. When Sarah died, I kept it. I've been meaning to give it to Michelle for years, but I was waiting for the right moment. She knows about it. She's asked about it before. And you're going to use it as bait. Yeah. The word tasted bitter. I'll tell her I want to give it to her. That it's time. She'll come. And when she does, I'll show her everything. Marcus leaned back in his chair. That might work. Just be ready for her reaction. Denial, anger, maybe even blaming you for digging into her marriage. It's not going to be easy. I know. He stood and extended his hand. Good luck, Walter. I hope she listens. I shook his hand, gathered the folder, and left. Back home, I spread everything out on my kitchen table.